Hello everyone, and welcome to another video where I have to explain to leftists that they actually seem to control absolutely everything in Britain. Every institution, every university, and finally even the media, even though they constantly say that the BBC is a right-wing rag. So you may or may not have heard in the news recently that GB News is going to be launched. Everything you need to know after Sun's Dan Wootton named first major on-air signing. And this article pretty much covers everything we're going to need to know about GB News, so let's go through it. GB News, the biggest news TV channel to launch in the UK since Sky News 30 years ago, is gaining momentum with Dan Wootton as its first major signing and a huge recruitment drive underway. The project, chaired by former BBC presenter Andrew Neil, has said it is committed to impartial journalism and fresh approach to news, covering stories and issues that reflect the concerns and conversations of the whole of the UK. It plans to air 6,500 hours a year of original news, opinion and debate, ensuring rolling news for appointments to view programming. Now I will say this does sound like an extraordinarily good idea. Much like Carl Benjamin with the Lotus Eaters, I do think we need more right-wing news and magazine sources. We have The Spectator in the UK, which is gaining ground and getting a lot more subscribers, while a lot of other political magazines are either dropping in number or just flatlining. So clearly there is a want for some right-wing news sources, if you can call them that, because The Spectator seems to actually have quite a range of opinions, though nothing that is insanely leftist. Which, of course, in the eyes of the leftists, makes it a right-wing Nazi rag, which, of course, it isn't, because all the American writers there voted Biden. Having said that, it seems to be one of the few places where Douglas Murray is allowed to write. So all in all, I am for this. I do think we need more explicitly right-wing institutions, though I think this one will play off as trying to be rather impartial, which, to be fair at this point, does just mean right-wing. So GB News is planning to launch in March 2021, so that's about a month away, and it has a little paragraph on the Sun executive who has joined them. So Sun executive editor and talk radio drive time presenter Dan Wootton has become GB News' first big on-air signing, despite his employer, News UK, working on plans of their own for a TV service aimed at Brits who feel disillusioned with the BBC. See what I mean? Everyone just... There's quite a lot of people that seem to want to tap into this free gap in the market, where we want a news channel where we aren't constantly spewed with leftist propaganda. Wootton has been at The Sun for 7 years and broke some major showbiz scoops, including Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's departure to the US branded Megxit. Wootton said the chance to join GB News was just too good to pass up. I feel passionately about GB News' bold vision to bring a fresh approach to television news and debate that embraces all voices and opinions across Britain, he said. Wootton is simultaneously joining Mail Online to write a twice-weekly column in which he said he will continue to break stories. Mail Online publisher Martin Clark said, "We have long been admirers of his work at The Sun. It will be a privilege to work with the man who broke Megxit, and we look forward to him sharing his unique insights and brilliant exclusives with Mail Online's millions of readers." So this man clearly works for more right-leaning newspapers in the UK, because The Sun is basically the working class Tory paper, and the Mail is just... I mean, if you ever go into the comments of a Mail Online article, you will see that it is people who leftists will refer to as gammons. But I'm not going to, because I give them more respect than that. But clearly Dan Wootton would be good for this job. He is not a raging leftist and actually seems to work exclusively for newspapers and news networks that aren't leftist, because talk radio, while I won't exactly call it right-wing, it certainly does bring up subjects that the leftists hate, as do The Sun and the Mail Online, so I think he's a good addition, at least at first. So already a pretty good start. They also go into saying that Andrew Neil is the role of chairman and will host a flagship evening programme in primetime. And there are other names such as former Reach head of video Rebecca Hudson, who has been appointed as head of digital but will also appear on part of the GB News on-air team. And that's all they really have for presenters at the moment. I imagine there will be a lot more, maybe Emma Webb. For those of you that don't know, she is a young conservative who has been really fighting the Scottish hate crime bill, put forward by Humza Yousaf, who is a raging leftist and complained that a lot of Scottish people in power happen to be white. but I don't think we're going to get too much more information on this before it actually launches, but it's looking good already from what I can see. So now we'll have a look at the investors. So who is behind GB News? The broadcaster has been founded by media executives Andrew Cole and Mark Schneider, both of whom had had associations with Virgin Media owner Liberty Global, which is run by John Malone, a major shareholder of GB News Investor Discovery. I don't recognise any of these names. Cole has written on his LinkedIn page of his quest for the truth in news, to provide viewers with something very different and challenge the BBC and other incumbent news channels. I mean, I don't know who they are, but that already sounds good to me. Former Sky News executive editor John McAndrew is director of news and programming, and ex-Sky News Australia chief executive Angelos Fragopoulos is CEO. Well, that's really good, because Sky News Australia was quite right-wing. They seem to have some of the most based news content I have ever seen whenever I see the clips on Twitter. Experienced media and entertainment executive Mark Schipper, formerly head of strategy at Liberty, is Chief Operating Officer, or COO. So, as I say, I don't really know these names, but from what they are writing, what their plan is, and some of their old jobs, it seems like a good direction. To me, anyway. But now I think we get on to the most important part of this article, which asks, will GB News be right-wing? CEO Frangopoulos has said that GB News is committed to impartial journalism and looking for a range of voices and perspectives, which basically means no, which is a bit of a worry because it seems to be a common trait that if an institution is not explicitly right-wing, it eventually moves over to left-wing or leftism, which isn't a great thing, but honestly, I will take anything that isn't leftism at this point. So we've got Carl Benjamin's Lotus Eaters, which is explicitly right-wing. I can't see that going to leftism at any point soon. But to be fair, I can't see GB News doing it either, but if my money were to go on one of them going left-wing first, it would be GB News. In a letter complaining about a Guardian column, Frangopoulos said, GB News will be staunchly independent. That is our point. Our investors know this, our journalists will know it, and so will our viewers. We aim to serve the British communities who feel poorly represented by mainstream television media, especially outside of London. Yo. We are proud to be adding plurality to UK media by investing in journalism that will be as diverse and broad-minded as the British people themselves. Fair enough. We are absolutely committed to our mission to report news in the most accurate and balanced way we can. That all sounds good. That sounds exactly what I've wanted out of a UK news network forever at this point. Nevertheless, it has frequently been tipped as the UK's answer to the US right-wing channel Fox News, with journalists approached to get involved telling the Telegraph it was pitched to them as a right-wing alternative to the BBC. Fine, good, that's what I want, because that also implies that the BBC is left-wing, which it is. Broadcast TV channels in the UK face stricter regulations than the US, with Ofcom's broadcasting code stating they must adhere to due impartiality across their programming, but due impartiality is less restrictive than viewers may think, meaning GB News is likely to be able to have a right-leaning stance, balanced out by guests, for example, showing the other side of the argument, which again I am totally fine with. Ofcom's rules state it does not mean an equal division of time has been given to every view, or that every argument and every facet of every argument has to be represented, which again I'm fine with. The approach to due impartiality may vary according to the nature of subject, the type of programme and channel, the likely expectation of the audience as to the content, and the extent to which the content and approach is signalled to the audience. Neil has described his expectation that GB News anchors will have a bit of edge, a bit of attitude, personality. Good. That again is exactly what I want, and I think Lotus Eaters, I would say, have a bit of edge and a bit of attitude, which is really good, and I'd love to see this on the mainstream media, and I hope it does actually stay explicitly right-wing, because we do not have an explicit right-wing news channel in the UK. It's all leftist bollocks. So the rest of that article is just fairly innocuous information about how GB News can be watched, or how it makes its money, and it basically makes it through advertisements, as every other channel does. So we'll move on to some reactions from leftists, from the audacity of Andrew Neil setting up an alternate news channel, because the man literally has decades of experience in hosting news and political commentary channels. So first we have a tweet from Nina Parker, who hosts a Feminist Lens podcast, and is a women's rights advocate, though misspells women with an X. She says any news channels led by Andrew Neil is doomed to be racist, misogynistic, and fully backward. Okay. Also, why are they calling it GB News? It's not like Great Britain is going to last much longer. In my opinion, they should change their name to LEN's News, aka Little England's News. Well, that would just be LE News, not LEN's News. You raging psychopath. And I don't know where to begin even criticising this. This is just the most useless tweet ever. Andrew Neil by no means is misogynistic, racist, or backward. He's just somewhat centre-right, which I suppose is good enough for these raging leftists to say that he is misogynistic and racist, but there we go. And of course, the criticisms only get better. Stop Funding Hate, an organisation that does nothing else but harass companies until they stop advertising in particular newspapers or other media that they do not like, had this to say: if you want to help stop Fox News-style TV in Britain, tweet your mobile phone company using the hashtag #Don'tFundGBNews, urge them not to advertise with GB News or any Fox News-style channel, and explain why this matters to you with a link to a Guardian article that I imagine we will be going through this weekend. We'll share info about GB News advertisers as soon as we have it, so that you can go off and harass them. In the meantime, we think it's worth engaging now, because ad contracts tend to be agreed way in advance. The more brands are contacted now, the clearer it will be that Brits reject Fox-style media standards. Of course you say this, but you would say that The Spectator is a Fox media style in magazine in the UK, and yet their sales are ever increasing. It's not only that, but they've made quite a few tweets about this, but this was a clear one that I just thought was completely unnecessary. Any brand that supports GB News will be sending a clear message about their values. #Don'tFundGBNews. Why Britain's new TV news channel won't be woke. Yes, the problem is, Stop Funding Hate, is that absolutely every single TV news channel is completely woke. It's all propaganda. Having something that even isn't woke, not just anti-woke, but isn't woke, is too right-wing and needs to be shut down in your estimations, which is ridiculous. So now we've gone through the useless ones, let's go to the uber-useless one from Femi Sorry. And for those of you unsure about who Femi Sorry is, think of the guy who stands outside of Parliament shouting, "Stop Brexit," but he keeps all his activism to Twitter and doesn't actually do anything with his time. I say that like the Stop Brexit guy does anything with his time, but it's a bit more than going on Twitter and having a go at Nigel Farage for being racist. So Femi had this to say: just so everyone's aware, there is zero chance that the people behind GB News aren't currently scouting for a young lefty with the right values but without the facts and debating skills to defend them. They'll prop that person up as the symbol of balance on their channel. Maybe they should call you Femi, maybe you can be that person, but it's already poisoning the well, saying that, oh, this news channel is just going to be really lazy trying to get the other side's opinion, which I don't think is the case, because that is absolutely not what Andrew Neil is about. And he's even had a go at righties. He's had a go at James Delingpole when he got him on asking what's so good about Brexit, and James Delingpole's answers didn't stand up to scrutiny for that episode. So to say this is just ridiculous, because Andrew Neil does a really good job as a journalist. But I do love when he's suggested that maybe you should do some activism on this part. He basically says, no. A friend argued I should try and pick them apart from the inside. Flatly no. There'll be a 12 to 18 month window where they will either sink or swim, based on whether they can appear balanced enough to keep their advertising funding. Yes, I'm sure the advertising funding really give a shit about that. No lefty should give them legitimacy in that time. Okay. So they're going to turn right-wing because no lefty is going to want to go on. And because no lefty is going to go on, they're only going to get right-wing views. And then you're going to say, oh, look, they're all right-wingers. But then you get the Dave Rubin problem where he's like, look, I always invite left-wingers on, but none of them want to come on. And what are they supposed to do about that? Idiot. But as if that wasn't bad enough, Femi went one step further and unironically tweeted this out, retweeting the Stop Funding Hate tweet before about tweeting your phone company. Hi, EE. I was on Orange since I started using mobile phones and switched to you almost as soon as you took them over. But I will switch service provider immediately if I hear of one EE advert placed on that channel. #Don'tFundGBNews. Femi, I'm not being funny. I don't think EE really give that much of a shit. I think the amount of righties that are then going to get EE plans because of the advertisement way outweigh your one contract. It's simple numbers. So what makes this even more funny is that before he spurged out on Twitter saying that he's going to boycott EE, and before he said no left-winger should go on this news channel that is trying to be down the middle of the road, he tweeted this out: "The answer to the creation of new right-wing news channels is not new left-wing ones." Well, that's good, because you've already got about 1,000. The more we politically separate, the worse things get. I would happen to agree with that, but you can't help but keep dividing, oddly enough. The best thing I got from the Brexit campaign was meeting thousands of rational people in the middle who prefer objective conversations. Yeah, and so would GB News, but you're there saying no left-winger should even associate with GB News, even if they're asked to go on. So you're the one playing into this separation, Femi. So suck up, get on it, make your case, and have a good proper debate. So after all this spurging out from leftists, and surprisingly there wasn't any that I could find from Owen Jones or James O'Brien, Andrew Neil decided to make a reply where he essentially said, "The woke warriors trying to stir up an advertising boycott of GB News, a channel that hasn't even started broadcasting, are hilarious. Even funnier is their threat to cancel mobile phone contracts of operators who dare to advertise on GB News." And yeah, exactly, he's just made them look all like raging idiots. Because the only argument you can have against a channel that hasn't even started broadcasting yet, so you can't even have a good idea of what they even broadcast, is literally it's run by people I don't like, therefore it needs to be shut down. And that's all they are going off at the moment. None of them like Andrew Neil because Andrew Neil isn't left-wing. He's either centrist or centre-right. Which, hell, I will take. I know a few people are saying it's containment, and even if it is, again, we have to slowly move this Overton window to the right. You can't just go from here to a Hoppian libertarian state in a matter of years. It's going to be well beyond the time I die before we see anything remotely right-wing. That is how entrenched the leftist institutions and worldviews are. Femi makes a living off bitching on Twitter. You don't get that type of money with Patreon. Even Carl had to end up waiting about 3 years before he could actually 100% get behind his YouTube channel, and even then he had to get off it and move to his own company. Hard work and perseverance, that's the burden we have on the right wing, and it's gonna take beyond our lifetimes to make the changes we want to see. So while it may be containment, I wouldn't be unsupportive of this. I would call it punching right, which I don't think is a good idea. And hell, it's making all the right people rage, so why not get behind it? Anyway, that's all I had for you for now. I will be watching a bit of GB News when it comes to March when it launches, just to see what it's like. If it ends up being containment, well, at least it's making all the right people rage, as I said, so it can only be a good thing. But, as I said, that's everything I had for you, so, as usual, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.